Hi, and welcome to Real Life with Jenny. My name's Jenny Sanaparatna. Grab your favorite drink and a snack, and we will get started. Today, I have a brand new tea to me. It's glazed lemon loaf. It's an herbal tea, and it's caffeine free, and let me tell you, it is delicious. And I am eating spindle butter pretzels. I'm kind of obsessed with them right now, so there we are. Well, let's get real. It is the time of year that I love to be outside walking. I just absolutely enjoy the cooler weather. Actually, today it's not cooler, but that's okay. I love the cooler weather and I love being outside and watching nature happen. It's one of the reasons I love the state I live in. I live in Minnesota in the United States, and I love it here because of fall. So the other day I'm walking and it was a nippy morning. I suppose it was like 50 degrees by the time I got outside. When I woke up, it was in the 30s. So I'm outside and it's 50 and there's frost on the ground that's still in the shade because it hasn't gotten the sun yet. And I'm walking around and I'm looking at the beauty that is the trees. And some of them are red and some of them are like a really pale yellow. Some of them are still bright green. There's all these different colors. And I was just kind of meditating and praying as I was walking. And the Lord kind of showed me something that was really bizarre. Maybe it's not bizarre. Maybe everybody else in the world has already thought about this and I'm the last one. But I'm there and there is this one bush that turns bright red right away in the fall. I have no idea what kind of tree it is or bush it is. I'm not that kind of person. I'm not that cool. Anyway, it turns red almost right away when things change in the fall. And everything else around it's still green. And it is so beautiful and it just pops. And I was thinking about me as a person and how I would be envious of this red plant if I'm still the green one. And I realized that the trees had no emotions. Like, they're not like, ooh, I'm ugly. Here I am, I'm still green. Here I am, nothing's changed. Guy next to me is bright red and beautiful, and everybody's snapping pictures of him. And I'm still green, and no one's paying attention to me. Or I turn yellow, and nobody likes the color yellow. And so here we are, and I wish I were the color that was purple. I wish my leaves turned that way. Trees don't have those emotions. They don't, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe trees have emotions and I just didn't know it. I really don't believe that's biblical, but it's okay. But they don't have the emotion of jealousy for one another. And I was walking along and I felt like I was reminded of the little thing I've seen on Facebook several times about popcorn and how not every kernel pops at the same time. And we so expect everybody in a classroom or kids to pop at the same time. And we're always comparing. We are in the comparison game. Like, that is what we do as humans. We compare everything to everybody. And it's just the way they are. You drive in a parking lot and you're like, oh, look, their car's cleaner than mine is. Their car's more expensive than mine is. Their car is rustier than mine is. Like, you don't normally say that, but you notice things. Granted, I never do that with cars because cars are not my thing and I don't really care. But you get my point. You're like, you go to your friend's house and you're like, boy, wouldn't it be nice if our house had this? Or, I quite often for myself have been like, if we had more than one kid, or boy, they have 5, they're more important than I am. They have 2, they're less important. Like, we're always comparing. And when you look at how God created nature, He created nature to have its own moment in the sun. When you're looking at the trees, the red bush has its moment, that it's in amongst all the greenery and it pops. And in a couple weeks, it's faded and the green has its way of turning into an orange and it has its moment. And then the next tree that turns purple turns at a different time and it has its moment, and then everybody loses all their leaves and then the evergreens have their moment because they're always green. And it's just that neatness of how God, I know that's kind of a weird way to say it, but it's neat how God really has each tree have a moment that is special and important, and that they shine during that specific time every year in the fall. And then everybody has no leaves and everyone's equal except for the evergreens, who then shine. And I really feel like that's something that is so important to our own lives. I was thinking, because I so often love to bring it like back to the Bible. And of course you can find lots of things about nature and how God loves all things. But I was thinking about not an odd character, but an odd character to maybe bring into this. And that's the disciple Peter. Like, he has kind of a rocky road. In my personal opinion. So, he's the guy that gets out of the boat and everybody's like, oh, and he fell. And then when Jesus was taken away, he denied Christ 3 times. And how difficult that would be. That really, in his mind, he failed. He failed the person that he loved by denying him and pretending he didn't know him. And then the Lord did something miraculous in my mind. He built his church on Peter. And later in Acts, we see how God really takes someone that made some mistakes earlier in his ministry and built an entire church on him. And the other disciples, of course, as well. But he really was fundamental in the church in the book of Acts. And I think that we are so hard on ourselves as human beings. We're constantly comparing. And I just want to remind you today that God has a specific time for you to shine. Even if you were in the spotlight before, it happens every year for the trees, right? They all lose their leaves, they start over, they grow, and then once again they had that spotlight in the fall. So maybe you're further along in your walk in life, maybe you're a little bit older, and you feel like, well, I've had my time in the sun, and now it's time for me to kind of shut back. That doesn't mean that God doesn't have something special for you ahead. It does not mean that God does not have a big plan for you ahead of you. And if you're really still waiting, and you're like, I really wish that there'd be something good in my life that would happen, or, I'd love for God to use me. I just want you to know that he is probably using you in ways that you don't understand. Because when I was looking at that little red bush, and I have a picture of it, the reason the red bush is so beautiful is because of all the greenery around it. And sometimes you just get to be the greenery that makes that red shine and pop a little bit more. I've thought about that so many times in my life as a pastor's wife. You are quite often the greenery behind the shining star that is your husband or wife that's preaching and leading the church. And you are the supporting role behind that. And that does not take away from the significance of how important you are in that place. And I just want you to see that you are a kernel of popcorn that will pop. And then no matter what's going on in your life, and no matter what life is throwing you, life is throwing lemons at you. And you're like, I really don't have the energy to make any lemonade. Like, I just don't. I don't have that energy, let alone trying to buy sugar. I just don't have that. God sees that, and he's using you where you are right now. He may be using you in the background of someone else's life, teaching someone else something important. And I just want to encourage you that your time will come. Your time to change leaves will come, and your time of glory will come. And I am just excited. Get out there in the fall and enjoy seeing God's creation and what he does around you, and knowing that he can do that in your own life. Well, that's all I have for you this week. You can find us at Real Life with Jenny on Instagram and on Facebook. You can also find us at christconnection.cc/Jen. All of my information's there. Please share, like, and rate us. I would really appreciate Real Life with Jenny. Any of that happening, I just really appreciate all of you. And I know that this was a really short episode, but honestly, my heart is to show you that if God pays that much attention to the simple trees in Minnesota, there are lots of trees in the world, and that he put that much time and energy into a simple set of trees that I walked by the other day, to make them spectacular throughout the season of fall and having them all be different colors, how much more do you think he's paying attention to your life and wants to pour into you and love you even more than those simple trees? You all have a great day.